Thank you very much, Mihai. So I would like to thank all the organizers and more especially Mihai for the invitation. So it's a pleasure to present these two works. In fact, we have two papers here in one talk. This is a collaboration with my colleague Mohamed from Rennes, Azmi, and with also Ana Maria Luz from Brazil. And so this paper, these two papers deal with the HMF model. The HMF model is quite well known by this community. This is the so-called Hamiltonian mean field model, and it is a sort of simplified version of the Vlasov-Poisson system of, let's say, well, I don't know if it's gravitational or plasma, but it's like a kinetic equation on some density of a distribution function f. This distribution function depends on one space variable, which is in fact an angle theta. So the space variable is in the torus, and there is a velocity which is of course in r. So we have the usual Vlasov equation, and the field is the gradient of a potential. A potential is given simply by the integration of the density rho. So the density rho is the usual density. So you integrate a rho on a cosine function. Cosine. So this is a convolution with a cosine function. In fact, of course, you can expand this and get an equivalent function. In fact, the potential phi depending on f depends only on two quantities, which are the integral of rho against a cosine and the integral of rho against a sine function. This model has been studied by many physicists, and also it's studied in a mathematical community, now in a kinetic community, as a quite simple model where we can test some methods. And here, the fact that we are in dimension 1 simplifies, of course, many things. So I will briefly give the properties of HMF, but they are the same as Vlasov-Poisson. So this model preserves all the integral of the distribution function. We have a nonlinear energy which takes the form of, so it's more like a gravitational model. I changed my mind. The energy is the difference between two positive quantities. The first one is the kinetic energy, the usual kinetic energy, and the second one is the potential energy. But the potential energy here is very simple. It is just the norm, the Euclidean norm of this magnetization. The magnetization is just the vector with these two components. Okay, so this is the nonlinear energy. It is nonlinear, of course. So linear plus quadratic minus quadratic. We have also the usual Galilean invariance, and we have also okay. These are the basic properties, and what I'm interested in are the steady states and special class steady states. If by chance you have a function f of theta and v, which is a function, a one-dimensional function of the microscopic energy. The microscopic energy is the usual microscopic energy, which is v squared over 2 plus the potential. So if you have a function of this, but of course, writing this is already an equation, a nonlinear equation, because the phi here depends on f. So this is a nonlinear equation. If you have converged in some fixed point procedure, whatever, and if you have a function of this form, then it is a steady state of the system. So I will be interested in the most simple class of such a steady state, which is the class where the function capital F is decreasing. So this is the usual simplest set of steady states, and our main results are the following one. So forget about this formula for the moment. So we have a steady state that I denote F0. If you have F not a steady state, then there is a criteria, a quantity that you can compute on F0. And if this quantity, if kappa, so kappa 0 is less than 1, strictly less than 1, and F is decreasing, we prove that F0 is non-linearly stable, in fact, non-linearly orbitally stable. And if this criteria is not satisfied, more precisely, if kappa 0 is strictly greater than 1, F0 is linearly unstable, and in general, it is non-linearly unstable, in fact, under additional technical assumptions. Okay, so what is the criteria? I will not. So I will, in this talk, we will see this criteria. We will let appear this criteria in a various way. This is rather funny. In fact, we found several methods to compute this kappa 0. This criteria was already known by physicists, and what we did was to prove mathematically these nonlinear properties. Right? So I quote this paper by Ogawa, but other physicists studied this criteria, I think. So my talk is very as the following outline, which is very simple. I will spend some time on stability result, which has techniques which are very different from the ones for instability, as usual. Instability can be done in 2 steps, linear and then nonlinear. Okay, so let me start with stability. Stability result uses a tool that we introduced with Mohamed and also Pierre Raphael in several papers concerning Vlasov-Poisson. So we adapted these papers to prove stability when this kappa 0 is less than 1. The main tool that which is a quite general tool adapted to the spatial structure of Vlasov-Poisson is the a notion, a generalized Schwarz rearrangement function. So if you know this tool, this very well-known tool in analysis, so this is the Schwarz rearrangement is the way to prove many symmetry properties in PDEs, in the analysis. This is so take a function, a general function in L1. Forget about the variable for the moment. If you have a function in L1, you can define its so-called distribution function mu f. This is the measure of the variable of the set such that f is greater than a quantity than s. So it is a one-dimensional. So f is a function in several dimensions, but mu is in one dimension. You define its inverse. In fact, it's pseudo-inverse. And then the Schwarz rearrangement is just this function f sharp, this pseudo inverse, composed with some Jacobian function in order to put this f sharp in a right space of variables. So this f star depends on the same variable as the initial function. It is just f sharp composed with the measure of a certain ball. And this is the precise formula of f star, but its very important property is that it is equimeasurable with f. So this f star has the same measure of level greater than s. Okay, and that's it. And the second important property is that the Vlasov equation, since the Vlasov equation, I said, conserves all the so-called Casimirs, it conserves all the integral of function of f. But this measure is an integral of a function of f, integral of the function in measuring the fact that f is greater or not than s or not. So this mu f is preserved by the flow, by the HMF or by Vlasov-Poisson flow. So since mu f is preserved, mu f of t, mu is a global function of s. So mu f of t depends on t. This is all this function is preserved. So in this function we code all the preservation of mu f is exactly equivalent to the fact that all the Casimirs are preserved. And then as a chain, the f star is preserved. So this is the first key property, and the second key property will come in a minute. Okay, let me state now our stability result. So the orbital stability result is this corollary. I will comment the theorem after that. For the moment, let us concentrate on this corollary. So this is exactly in some norm. So a natural norm. So we are studying weak solution, and a natural norm associated to weak solution is the energy norm, a sort of energy norm. So you integrate, you want to control, what you want to do is to control the difference between f of time and the steady state with a weight of the same strength as the kinetic energy in L1. So what you can prove is that if the initial data is close enough to F0, you have for all time F close to F0, to the same steady state, up a possible translation, which is impossible to avoid in such generality because of Galilean invariance. So this is the so-called orbital stability. And the translation is exactly defined. It is easy to define the translation for a given f. But in general, you cannot control this translation, or the control of this translation is a very difficult problem. So this is the aim, to prove this orbital stability. And in fact, this result can be proved by proving some functional inequalities. In fact, the stability result is simply a consequence of functional inequalities adapted to the quantities that are preserved by the Vlasov-Poisson flow, by the HMF flow. So what are these? What is the typical functional inequality? In fact, we can prove if you can prove that if so this first result is independent of HMF. If you take a function of this quantity, a function of an initial data, which is a function, all the steady states of with of HMF have more or less the same this form. Then you can prove that under the stability criterion, the difference between F and this steady state between any F. So this norm, the square of this norm, is controlled by quantities which are preserved by the flow. So this is the key functional inequality which enables to deduce directly stability, orbital stability. Of course, if initially, since this is the nonlinear energy, if initially the F is close to F0, this quantity is small initially and is conserved by the flow, it will remain small for all time. As I said, F star, the rearrangement is conserved by the flow, so this quantity is also a constant in HMF, L1 norm also. So this is the main theorem we proved. I will have to be not to enter in too much in the detail of the proof, but I just want to insist on the main steps for those who know this kind of proof. So the main step that I will develop in a minute is a new notion of symmetric rearrangement with respect to microscopic energy. So the previous, the Schwarz symmetric rearrangement was a function of distance to the origin, and now the symmetric rearrangement will be a function of microscopic energy. Then the second property, the key property, is that the Hamiltonian is monotone with respect to this rearrangement. Then you have some coercivity control. So the criterion appears here, enables to prove some coercivity, and then the last part is a consequence of all the other properties. So the first step is to generalize Schwarz rearrangement. So in fact, I already explained how to construct Schwarz rearrangement. Here, you just change the Jacobian function to obtain a rearrangement, which is, so read only this part. If you have a potential, any function, then you can define a function that we called that we denote F star phi, which is equimeasurable with the F, and it is a function of the energy. So there is a unique function of this form. Then, okay, so we have an explicit construction I do not develop, but in fact, F star phi is also F sharp, the same F sharp as before, so the inverse of the mu F, composed with some Jacobian function, which takes, so it is clearly a function of the microscopic energy, right? And then the key monotonicity property is the following one. You have an algebraic formula, which is the nonlinear Hamiltonian, nonlinear energy of F minus the nonlinear energy of F0 can be decomposed into three parts. So the red part, the green part, and this one, the blue one. So the blue one is simply a function of one variable. Initially, you have a function of F, right? A function of here you have a function only of MF So of one variable. This is the modulus of the magnetization. Then here you have a quantity which only depends of f star, right? F star phi f minus f zero star phi f is the same function f sharp taken at two different phi. So the difference between, so the red term is small as soon as the f star are small, and the green term is very important. So this is the integral of microscopic energy multiplied by f minus its rearrangement. And this term is, by structure, by construction, it is positive. This is reminiscent from the following property of standard Schwarz symmetrization. So with this property, and in fact, remarking that this quantity controls not only positive but also controls this part. You can prove the theorem. The way to prove it is first is to study this one-dimensional function whose properties are very interesting, since this function j of m is its derivative is 0 at the steady states, and its second derivative is exactly 1 minus kappa 0. So this is exactly when this real number is strictly positive, you can have coercivity on j and so on. You can continue. So I stop here for stability. I will just show in. I think I have only 5 minutes left, right, Mihail? Is it Mihail? Or chairman? Who is the chairman?
Yeah, you can use the time you need.
Okay, but I will not take too much time. So what was interesting, in fact, the stability criteria was already known. The linear instability. Okay, and linear was known under another form, and in fact we could prove that it was the same. So linear instability uses techniques which are very different. In fact, I would like mainly to quote the works by Walter Strauss, Yann Buot, Lin for Vlasov-Poisson system. So in this series of works, the linear stability of some classes of steady states of Vlasov-Poisson was proved. The idea is mainly to integrate the characteristics of the linear flow and adapt of the pendulum. So what is very simple here is that the characteristics associated to this equation. So you linearize, and if you forget this potential, this term, you have the free, what is the equivalent of the free transport equation in our context. This is the equation in a pendulum, right? So the pendulum equations are behind all the HMF flow. It's quite usual, quite known by people, everybody studying this equation. And in a few words, I would say that to study linear instability, you have, of course, to study an eigenvalue problem. So the eigenvalue problem is you take the linearized flow and you define an eigenfunction of this linearized flow. Using the spatial structure of the characteristics, you can prove that being having an eigenfunction is equivalent to for the eigenvalue to vanishing a nonlinear function j of lambda. So we have a solution of this LF equals to lambda f if and only lambda solve this is a root of this function j, capital J, and then you can study this function capital J. It is explicit. It depends explicitly on the function capital F that you have to define your steady state. And of course, it is well, you don't know a lot of things on the function capital J, but it is quite easy to prove that at the infinity, when lambda goes to plus infinity, j goes to 1. So since it's a continuous function of lambda, it is quite interesting to study the behavior of j at 0. And in fact, the limit of j at 0 is 1 minus kappa 0, the same kappa 0. So it is the same criteria gives you that if 1 minus kappa 0 is negative, this time, not positive, but negative, you have a negative value at 0, positive value at plus infinity, so you have some root between 0 and plus infinity. This would give you a positive eigenvalue, so an instability, a linear, unstable steady state. Okay, and that's it. Okay, for the linear instability. And the technique then that we applied to prove nonlinear instability also is adapted from literature, but with a few technical difficulties. For those who are aware of these works, I would like to quote the pioneer work by Emmanuel Grenier on fluid dynamic equation. Then it was applied by many authors, but in particular by Maxime Auré and Daniel Anquan for kinetic equations. So we use the same kind of technique, which is to prove linear instability under some criteria that I will under the same criteria, so kappa 0 greater than 1, but with additional technical difficulty, technical assumption, sorry. The technical assumption is that the steady state vanishes after some value smaller than the magnetization. Well, it's a little, well, I don't know if there is a physical explanation for that, but I will show why we need some kind of criterion. And then you have, it's a usual formulation for nonlinear instability. So F is a real solution, a nonlinear solution, a solution of nonlinear equation. And as your rule, you can prove that if the order of magnitude of the if F0 at time 0 is close to F0 with a distance of order delta, the time for instability is of order log of delta. It's of course due to the fact that we use the exponential growth given by the linear instability. So the sketch of the proof is to construct, so introduced at least by Emmanuel, but also by other authors for this kind of proof, is to construct some approximate solution. We construct an almost solution, which is for which we start with F0, then there is a perturbation, delta. So the crucial term is this one, delta F1. So F1 is the eigenvector associated to the lambda we found in the previous step. You multiply by delta. Of course, this object is a solution of the linearized flow, but not of the nonlinear flow. So you have to add some additional term, but by adding only a finite number of additional term, you don't have an exact solution, but you have an approximate solution, and you can compute the difference between a real solution, starting with this term and this F app. So you have some explicit, some bound like this, and also to estimate what I would like to insist on, and then it will be the end of the talk, to estimate so how the approximate solution goes far from the exact solution. You have to make some semi-group, I would say, estimate on the HMF flow or on the Vlasov flow, and in this estimates, you need the technical assumption. For this estimate, we use that the period of the characteristics is, so the characteristics are periodic in the pendulum, and you have to estimate uniformly this period on the support of the considered function. This is the special place where we need the technical assumption for this linearized semi-group property. So I have absolutely not enough time to develop all the proof, but the idea is mainly to prove this estimate, and then to estimate all the series of remainder terms with, of course, a few technicalities. The technicalities due to the fact that we have to ensure that this the initial function is non-negative. You want to have a distribution function which has a physical meaning, and also you have some technicalities due to the fact that the function given by the linear instability is not exactly the one that you will use, and you have to perturb it a little bit, and then to deal with complex valued function, and then again to take some real parts everywhere to have a function which have physical meanings. So it's just in a few words the kind of technicalities you have to deal with. So this is the conclusion, and I think I've already finished. It's the end of my time. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Florian. We have time for questions and comments. Okay, there is a question by chat by Pierre.
Kuramoto. Sorry, Pierre, I forgot. Remember Kuramoto. Tu peux me dire, à me le laisser. J'ai été rapide, je taperai sur Google rapidement, mais j'ai oublié. Désolé. It is also a model with a torus. Yeah, a proper rotation speed. Yeah, I remember. I don't know. Sorry, Pierre. I don't remember. Yeah, un trou de mémoire, je dirais, par rapport à ça. J'ai vu plein de fois. Mais... Okay, thank you. A good idea. We will check.
Other questions?
Yeah.
I have a comment. So if you change the microscopic energy, you still be able to construct the rearrangement and
Yes,
investigate other models, or
yes, it is quite general. If you change the kernel, you mean the kernel of the microscopic. If you check, yeah, no, sorry, I answer in another way. Yeah, you can construct a rearrangement depending on any function, not only this microscopic energy.
there are some hypotheses to be
Yeah.
satisfied by this.
Like there are two steps. The first step is just the mu sharp, the F sharp, and then you compose with the exact some Jacobian depending on the function. You impose that your rearrangement has to depend only on one function, which is explicit, and then you can compute it by inverting.